Before you begin, please like and subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to hear here has the power to change your life. Now take a deep breath and pay attention. The reason so many people live tired, lost, and repeating the same mistakes isn't a lack of time or luck. It's a lack of control. When the mind doesn't receive clear instructions, it creates shortcuts that lead straight to the same old destination. And the worst part? It does this thinking it's protecting you. Napoleon Hill often said that there's a cruel paradox hidden in routine. People want freedom, but live on autopilot. They want to prosper, but harbor thoughts of scarcity every day. They want to change, but repeat the same behavior expecting different results. And this is precisely where the gap lies, the difference between those who react and those who decide to create. The truth is, controlling your mind isn't about strength, it's about technique. It's about learning to transform chaos into clarity, doubt into direction, and distraction into fuel. When you discover this, you realize you never lacked ability. You just lacked instruction. Because your mind is like a power plant. It already has all the energy it needs. It just needs to be tuned to produce what you want. But be careful. This knowledge isn't comfortable. It shatters long-held beliefs and challenges everything you've been taught about effort, luck, and success. But when you understand the mechanism, everything changes. Things start to flow, opportunities appear, and life stops being a struggle and becomes a direction. And that's exactly what you'll learn today. How to make your mind obey you and transform any desire into a tangible result. Either you control your mind, or the autopilot controls you. Xi. Napoleon Hill realizes that, without realizing it, he's been living in snooze mode, his mind gravitating toward distractions and the day passing by on autopilot. He explains that millionaire mentality starts with the basics, deciding who drives, him or his impulses. Nothing mystical here. It's mental reprogramming applied to everyday life with small, consistent choices. Noise reduction, a clear schedule, app limits. Everything becomes a soundtrack. Daily consistency, subtle humor. If your cell phone decides more than he does, it's time to ask for your driver's license back. He advises creating a simple control panel. 3 daily alarms with micro commands. Practical example. 25 minutes of focus, 5 minutes of rest, cell phone in grayscale, desk without digital clutter. Guided reading. Think and grow rich. Purpose. The power of habit. Triggers. Mindset. Beliefs. This cements discipline and active defined purpose without relying on motivation. Little by little, the brain understands. When the alarm goes off, it acts. No drama, no soap opera. To avoid becoming a sermon, he pulls out the mirror. He's already swapped "I want" for "procedure" and seen the week pay off. Practical suggestion, creative visualization. 60 seconds of seeing the me in action, not just the completed goal. Anti-sabotage routine. Water on the table. Task 1 already open. Next action written the night before. Intentional repetition. Pause daily consistency. The mind learns that the default route is to act, not postpone. And curiously, when it takes the wheel, the next question arises. How to reprogram the internal routes for good? Repetition creates reality. The brain believes what you repeat. He often says that the brain is the most obedient employee in the world. It repeats what you tell it to, even when the command is bad. If someone keeps saying, "I'm terrible with money," the brain takes note and executes it as a corporate order. Mental reprogramming starts by replacing the internal script, line by line. Instead of "I can't," it installs "I'm learning." It seems small, but it changes the operating system. And with daily consistency, the mind begins to accept the new script as the only possible one. For those looking for a millionaire mentality, he recommends a curious vocal workout, repeating affirmations out loud while performing tasks. Like, I am disciplined while closing a report, or I have a clear purpose before opening the most difficult email. The brain associates sound with action, and what was a belief becomes behavior. It's the same principle athletes use when repeating victory mantras before a game. It works because discipline is reinforced by both gesture and word. He likes to compare the process to gardening. Thoughts are seeds, repetitions are watering. Those who plant failures and water every day cannot expect successful flowers. Therefore, creative visualization must be watered too. Imagining the act, not just the result. Seeing yourself studying, negotiating, selling, delivering. This is the film the subconscious understands. But as the crop grows, a new challenge arises, keeping the garden clear of the weeds that sabotage progress. Napoleon Hill explains that the mind doesn't transform all at once, but in layers. Each habit, each repeated thought, functions like a piece of code being rewritten within the system. When someone insists on acting purposefully, even when they don't want to, they are literally redesigning their internal circuits. It's like updating old software. It crashes at first, but then runs faster. That's why he repeats, it's not magic, it's biology applied to the discipline. On difficult days, he often laughs and says that the mind acts like a spoiled child. It kicks when it doesn't get what it wants. If it wants distraction and focus, it protests. But, with daily consistency, she understands who's in charge. He says that, in the beginning, all he had to do was open the book and his body would ask for a break. Today, the break comes only when the chapter ends. This shift happens when the brain stops seeing effort and starts seeing routine. To put this into practice, he suggests creating anchor rituals, actions so simple that the brain doesn't dare resist. 10 minutes of reading upon waking, 2 minutes of silence before work, writing down 3 key tasks on paper. These are small gestures, but they have a cumulative effect. They tell the mind, this is important. Repeat. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic, and resistance diminishes. But it's at this point, just when everything seems to be flowing, that an even more subtle test arises, that of silent doubt, which tries to slow progress. Napoleon Hill says that doubt is fear's ultimate disguise, and fear, when disguised, is dangerous. At the beginning of any change, the mind plays subtle tricks. Will this really work? What if I'm wasting my time? It's the instinct for self-preservation, trying to keep you in the known. But he teaches that millionaire mentality. It is born precisely when a person learns to dance with fear, not to run from it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of continuing even when trembling. He remembers when he first began building his purpose. There were no guarantees, only the discomfort of the unknown. But it was this discomfort that shaped him. He turned insecurity into fuel, applying mental reprogramming every day, writing down his goals and repeating empowering phrases until his belief became unshakable. When his inner voice said, "You can't," he mentally responded, "Watch me." It's simple, yet powerful. Each firm response creates a new neural pathway, until the fear tires of persisting. For Napoleon Hill, facing fear is like crossing a wobbly bridge. If you stop in the middle, it never stops shaking. It only stabilizes when you reach the other side. That's why he insists, keep going even when you're not sure. Daily consistency. It overcomes fear because it transforms action into identity. And when action becomes natural, fear loses its function. However, when overcoming fear, another, even more subtle challenge emerges, one that silently destroys many dreamers: the temptation to stop when the first victories appear. Napoleon Hill calls this the almost trap. It's when a person feels the first taste of victory and, without realizing it, relaxes. The brain thinks, it's already worked, and turns off the engine. That's when many lose their rhythm. He teaches that, Discipline, true persistence, isn't the effort at the beginning, but the constancy after the applause. When the result arrives, the ego wants a break, but the purpose demands maintenance. It reminds us that even an airplane pilot keeps his hands steady even during a cruising flight, because he knows the sky can change at any moment. Most people, he says, fail not for lack of talent, but for lack of follow-through. They set brilliant goals, but they disappear before the habit takes hold. He suggests a simple trick: celebrate achievements, yes, but as if they were checkpoints, not race finishes. A celebratory dinner can last a night. A commitment to daily consistency needs to last a lifetime. The person who understands this becomes unstoppable, because they no longer depend on spikes of motivation, only on movement. And when movement becomes identity, progress begins to feed back on itself. With each step taken, the brain itself demands the next. He compares this stage to pushing a bicycle uphill. The beginning requires strength, but there comes a time when gravity reverses. Life begins to push you forward. But he warns, it is here, when everything seems to be clicking into place, that a new kind of challenge arises. Not the fear of failure, but the fear of success. The one that tests whether you're truly ready to live what you've asked for. The fear of success, the last obstacle before the turnaround. Napoleon Hill often said that fear of success is more common than fear of failure. It seems illogical, but it's not. When the mind realizes that dreams are about to come true, it tries to hit the brakes. The subconscious, accustomed to scarcity, begins to whisper, "Do you deserve all this?" It's the same mechanism that makes someone sabotage a diet when they're about to reach their ideal weight. The brain fears the unknown, even if that unknown is victory itself. Napoleon Hill explains that success requires a new identity. And that's what's scary. People who previously struggled to survive need to learn to live abundantly. It's new emotional territory, and the brain interprets change as a threat. He says that when he began to thrive, subtle feelings of guilt emerged. Feeling too much around those left behind. Fear of being judged. Fear of losing control. It was at that moment that he understood that mental reprogramming is not just about creating wealth, but expanding the capacity to receive it. Napoleon Hill. He advises his students to treat success like a muscle. If it is not trained, it weakens. Therefore, he proposes simple exercises to creative visualization. Imagine yourself dealing with the new reality in a light and natural way. See yourself managing money wisely, maintaining discipline, helping others, and remaining grateful. This practice prevents the unconscious from associating prosperity with loss. The secret is not to fight fear, but to make success a familiar place for the brain. Many are afraid of climbing and falling. He teaches that falling isn't the problem. The problem is stopping climbing for fear of slipping. Daily consistency protects against this. Small, purposeful actions performed every day create a solid emotional foundation. This way, success stops being a mountain too high and becomes just the next step. When the focus is on serving, growing, and improving, the mind understands that thriving is a natural consequence, not a lucky accident. With a smile, he says, "Success only scares those who still see themselves as too small to fit within it." When a person begins to see themselves as the source of abundance, everything changes. They realize that wealth isn't something you achieve, it's something you express. From that point on, fear fades. But there's something even deeper he promises to reveal. The key to transforming all that mental energy into consistent action and visible results. He teaches that true power lies not in knowing what to do, but in doing what you already know every day. It is repeated action that transforms information into wisdom and dreams into achievement. Daily consistency. It's the invisible cement that holds all other virtues together. Discipline, focus, courage. He says that while many seek motivation, winners build systems. Because motivation is fickle, but systems are predictable. Whoever organizes their day, organizes their destiny. One of the methods he recommends is golden blocks, non-negotiable, short, and intense periods of time dedicated to what truly matters. It could be 30 minutes of reading about finance, studying something new, or working on a purposeful project. It's in these small blocks that millionaire mentality is honed minute by minute. He jokes that if someone can protect just 2 blocks a day from modern distractions, they're already among the 5% most focused on the planet. And it's there, in the simple, that the extraordinary is born. Another point he reinforces is that discipline. It's not punishment, it's freedom. A disciplined person isn't rigid. They're light. They don't need to decide everything all the time because what's essential is already defined. He explains that this is what differentiates amateurs from masters. Amateurs decide when to act. Masters act even without deciding. And this habit, when solidified, creates a sense of tranquility. The mind understands it can trust its own command. To strengthen this confidence, he recommends the silent morning ritual. Waking up and spending 5 minutes in creative visualization. See yourself completing tasks, solving problems, moving forward with energy and joy. Then, write in one sentence what defined purpose of the day. This simple practice prepares the brain like an athlete warming up before a game. This is how focus sets in, before the world even begins to demand attention. And this mental state is maintained throughout the day, like a smart autopilot. In the end, he asserts that this is what separates those who talk from those who do. The ability to remain steadfast even when nothing seems to be happening. Because progress isn't an event, it's an accumulation. It's in the silence of routine that success begins to make its noise. But before showing how this accumulation transforms into visible results and how to multiply this in all areas of life, he pauses strategically, because what comes next is what he calls the turning point. The moment when the mind stops just dreaming and starts creating. The creative mind, transforming thought into reality. Napoleon Hill teaches that every visible result is born first as an invisible image. Before any achievement, there is an idea molded in the mind, the outline of what will come. Millionaire mentality understands this. It's not about dreaming, but about designing with intention. He says that everything human beings create, they create twice, first in the mind, then in the world. That's why creative visualization. It is the most underrated training in history. Whoever masters this practice creates a reality before even touching it. He says that when he began applying this technique, he would mentally sketch out every detail of his future life. The office, the partners, the conversations, even the aroma of the room. At first, it seemed like a fantasy. Then, it became a guide. The brain, when visualized emotionally, activates the same circuits as a real experience. Thus, it begins to seek, without realizing it, situations that confirm the image created. Mental reprogramming in its purest form. The future begins to influence the present, and not the other way around. To make this practical, he recommends setting aside 5 minutes a day to mentally plan the next day. See yourself making good decisions, maintaining discipline, reacting calmly, achieving goals. The key is feeling, not just imagining. Feeling is the fuel that transforms thought into biological command. Without emotion, it's just daydreaming. With emotion, it becomes programming. He says even the body begins to respond differently. A more upright posture, a more confident voice, a firmer gaze. Mass daily consistency is what seals the process. Visualizing once is inspiring. Visualizing every day is transformative. It's like rehearsing for a role until the brain forgets its rehearsal. That's why it repeats. Practice until you believe, and when you believe, the world obeys. Over time, the unconscious adapts to the new frequency of success, and begins to act in automatic alignment with the defined purpose, life becomes coherent, and coherence generates results. Napoleon Hill, he concludes by saying that creating mentally is easy. The hard part is sustaining the vision when nothing has happened yet. But this is precisely the test that determines who will be remembered. When the mind sustains the image even in the darkness, the universe bows to persistence. And according to him, it is at this point that true power emerges, that of building a new reality while the world still doubts. It is the prelude to total awakening, the moment when thinking becomes doing. Napoleon Hill affirmed that the secret of creation is maintenance. There's no point in visualizing, feeling, and believing if there's no emotional support to hold what's being built. The mind can even project success, but it's the heart that keeps it alive. He explains that daily consistency, it's the link between dream and stability, the point at which vibration becomes matter. It's like lighting a flame. It doesn't explode all at once, but grows with each breath of attention and care. He notes that people with millionaire mentality, they don't get lost in the euphoria of the beginning. They understand that the game is long, and so they treat each day as an investment, not a test. He gives the example of high-performance athletes who train not just to win, but to stay at the top. The same goes for those seeking prosperity. It's not just about achieving it, it's about sustaining it. And sustaining it requires discipline, planning, and constant reviews of the defined purpose. Napoleon Hill, he often says that staying focused is like flying a plane. 90% of the time is about adjusting your route. Turbulence comes, distractions appear, but those who have learned to align themselves internally don't fall. He says that every day he revisits his goals, not to pressure himself, but to recalibrate the path. This simple practice is a way to mental reprogramming active. The brain understands that it is in control, even in the midst of chaos. This generates security, and security is the fertile soil where success flourishes. To reinforce this balance, he teaches the technique of the 3 alignments: mind, body, and purpose. The mind aligns itself through creative visualization, the body through disciplined action, and purpose through daily reflection on the why of each step. When all 3 are in harmony, progress is inevitable. Nothing external can destabilize someone who is internally anchored. And the curious thing is that, when this happens, results begin to arrive with less effort and more naturally. Do you want to manifest something great? Then become someone capable of sustaining something great. This is why he says prosperity is not a reward. It's a consequence of maturity. Those who learn to maintain the balance between desire and discipline become unstoppable. And it is precisely there, when the mind has mastered the creative flow, that it opens space for the next secret, the one that separates those who live on dreams from those who transform dreams into legacies. From dream to legacy, when the mind begins to serve the purpose. Napoleon Hill says that the true turning point comes when a person understands that success is not the end. It is the beginning of a new responsibility. Millionaire mentality. It matures when "I want to have" becomes "I want to serve." At this stage, money, results, and applause cease to be the goal and become tools. Purpose becomes the driving force, not the ego. And the mind, which once worked to conquer, now works to contribute. This is where the dream becomes a legacy. He explains that purpose is not something you find. It is something you build, brick by brick, in your routine, in your daily consistency. Every act of generosity, every moment of courage, every small ethical choice shapes this invisible foundation. He explains that great visionaries, from spiritual leaders to entrepreneurs, focused not on how much, but on why. And it is precisely this why that generates discipline emotional. Those who know what they are doing no longer need motivation, just direction. Napoleon Hill realized that helping someone grow gave him more pleasure than any personal achievement. It was there that he understood what Napoleon Hill called defined purpose. Everything began to fall into place. Opportunities arose, doors opened, and life seemed to reward every act of genuine contribution. Mental reprogramming had led him to success, but purpose kept him there with serenity. He teaches that leaving a legacy isn't necessarily about founding empires or changing the entire world. It's about changing someone's world. It's about acting with intention, being a beacon of integrity, and inspiring constancy. He proposes a simple exercise: creative visualization. Imagine the impact you want to make 10 years from now, and then act today as if that impact were already real. This kind of practice aligns the future with the present and gives meaning to even the simplest tasks. Finally, he asserts that when purpose replaces ego, the mind finds rest. It stops chasing and begins to attract. Thriving ceases to be a race and becomes a state of coherence. He says this is where the cycle completes, when the mind obeys, the heart guides, and life flows. But before closing, he leaves a subtle provocation. What if the next level of your mind isn't about achieving more, but about becoming more? Now that you understand how the mind works, comes the most important part. What will you do with it? Because knowledge without application is just a luxury distraction. True power lies in transforming what you heard today into a new behavior tomorrow. So tell me, what will you reprogram first? Fear? Procrastination? Or the belief that success is for others? Napoleon Hill often says that there is no failure for those who are constant. If you apply just 10% of what you learned here with daily consistency, transformation is inevitable. Small actions, repeated with discipline, change entire destinies. And what seemed unattainable suddenly begins to seem natural. The mind is a faithful servant. When you command it with purpose, it builds the impossible with silence and precision. So I want to challenge you. What will happen in your life when you finally make your mind obey? What will it be like to wake up and see results that previously only existed in your thoughts? If this video made you think, like now, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because from today on, we will continue building this new mindset together. A life with a defined purpose, real reprogramming, and inevitable results. And remember, the impossible only exists until the moment you decide to reprogram your mind. After that, it becomes inevitable.